In this video, we will talk about a feature that comes available in the S-Frame Enterprise Edition, stage construction. Why use stage construction? Some benefits of using this tool are: it enables the structural engineers to get an accurate assessment of their design at each stage of construction. You can perform the structural analysis, perform a code check of steel and concrete components according to major international standards, evaluate the behavior during and after construction, and account for the preload conditions. Here's an example similar to the one we are going to work with. A regular framework conformed by 3 stories. We will define our geometry first, and then assign one stage per story. As you can see in this example, we have stage 1, then stage 2, and finally stage 3, and check on some of the results. Now let's go to S-Frame. Here's the model we saw in the presentation. Let's take a look at these properties. So we have a 3-story building. The sections I've selected are HE 500 for columns, IPE 450 for the beams. Materials, I'm using the default material, steel US Canadian. The supports, we have fixed supports on all joints at the ground floor level. If we go to the loads window, I define 3 load cases: self-weight, dead load, and live load. Let's display the loads. So the dead load, you can see I've assigned a -100 kilonewton per meter for the first 2 stories, and for the roof -75. Similarly, we have a live load case with 130 for the first 2 levels and 90 for the roof. If we go to edit and load combinations, we can check the load combination I defined, just one, where I included the self-weight, the dead load, and the live load. Once the geometry and loading is defined, we can proceed with the next step: create the different construction stages. For this, we'll require to enable an option in the S-Frame solver, and we can do so. Let me turn this off. We can do so if we go to Settings, Preferences, Solver tab, and we enable this option. This structure will be modeled and analyzed using the stage construction sequence. And I click OK. Now you'll notice an additional tab below called Construction Stages. If you select this tab, you will see you have this option. You can start creating your stages for your model by right-clicking in the construction sequence and defining a new stage. If you have created folders in S-Frame before, the ones that you can see in the model organizer, the stages work in a very similar way, where you define your different stages and just need to select all the elements you want to add to each stage and update that stage. We will show it right now. You can give the name if you like, but I will keep it stage 1, so I'm just going to create the other stages. We have 3, so let's start with number 1. Stage 1 will be my first story, so I can select all, and if I select the left view, for example, I can use the selection tool, hold Control to unselect the second 2 levels, and then I right click, click Update Stage. Now every time I click here, I will have this configuration for this stage. Stage 2, remember to select your whole model. This is just one way to select. I hold Control and click and update this stage. Lastly, for the stage 3, select my whole model and update stage. Here we have stage 1, 2, and 3. Remember I mentioned there's other way of selecting elements. You can do so by select option here. Once you set up your stages, we need to go over one final step before running an analysis. And remember, currently SFrame supports only linear static analysis for stage construction. This step that I'm missing is if I right click, you see at the bottom option construction stage status and preloads. We need to define our preloads for each stage construction. So if I click here, I will see a new window, and here we can define our preloads for each stage. First of all, I will set the analysis for all the load cases and load combinations I have. If I click here, the software will take into consideration the load cases and combinations I defined. In the stage preload, I'll select first option, a load case. I would like to take into consideration the self-weight of the structure. I just need to click update, and you will see this. For instance, this is for stage 3, but you can start, we'll do the same for the other 2 stages. Stage 3 will be analyzed for load cases and load combinations, and the load case number 1, which is my self-weight, will be used as the preload for stage 3. Then we do the same for the other 2 stages. All load combinations, self-weight, click the update button. Finally, stage 1 for all my load cases and combinations for the self-weight as a preload. As I mentioned before, I'm selecting the self-weight as the preload for each stage of construction. Once you finish, you can click close and we can proceed with our analysis. So I go to Analyze, Linear Static Analysis, and click OK. And it looks like there's an issue in my model. There's a warning message saying that there are no degree of freedoms. I think I know what is going on. I believe when I selected my stage 1, the nodes were not selected here, and these nodes are constrained, so basically SFrame is assuming that there are not other free nodes. What I can do is just go back, unhide the unselected objects, make sure to select these nodes and update my stage. Just to make sure, let's check stage 2. Stage 2, I will do the same and update stage, and for stage 3 is the whole model, so no issues there. Now let's try running again. This time it's running successfully with no warning messages, so please keep this in mind. As you can see, it's performing a linear static analysis and it's going through each stage. I hit the enter button, and now I can start looking at if I want to see the reactions for the different load cases. Remember, this one had the self-weight as a preload, so it's taking into account that preload before applying this load case, same as the live load. But these are just the results for stage 1. You can do the same for stage 2, stage 3. For instance, in this case, it's taking into account the self-weight and the live load, and this is the reaction for the whole structure when applying this live load. You can also check on the other results, compare the differences between the stages. You can see how it's changing per stage, same as shear diagrams in Z and Y for different load cases. You can also check your load combination if I select it here. Moment diagrams per stage. You can access more information if you double click here. You can see the Y moments, shear, actual, basically all these options here. You can similarly access in this diagram window. You can see the values at different locations as well.
Thank you for watching, and for more webinars and recordings, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.